Let me show you what it looks like to take a patient through the testing wizard. First, I'd type the first few letters of a patient's name to find them in the list. Once I have my patient selected, I'd check them in. You'll notice that Clarity automatically defaults to testing for me since I haven't performed a test before. If I have multiple test types, different panels, multiple ordering providers, or practice locations, I can select those from these drop-downs as well. Do I do a baseline lung function? If so, I'd enter the value, or just put the number 1 in. This is only asked one time. It'll then be associated with the patient's record. If I have ICD-10 codes that I'd like to change, I can enter that as well. And then, of course, if I have a unique visit identifier or encounter number, I can enter that in this field, or just leave it blank. I'll check the patient in, and you'll see that Smith-Johnson now appears in my waiting room. I can also see what they're here for, testing. Sometimes patients will also appear in this queue for treatment. Now I'll select Smith-Johnson. Here you can see across the top of the screen all of the individual screens, or checkpoints if you will, that need to be met in order to proceed to the next one. These are all customized per your Clarity environment. So for instance, do you do a pre-screening questionnaire? And if so, what are those questions? In this particular instance, I'll say yes, the patient is on beta blockers because we know that's contraindicated to testing. When I click next, you'll see that Clarity gives me a warning that says beta blockers are not something that we want to test people with. How would we like to proceed? And under normal circumstances, we would probably reschedule, but in this case, we'll continue and type a note. I could always re-enter the answers if I want to go back. I'll click continue, and now I advance to the next tab, pre-vitals. Here again, what are those vitals that we have set up for you, and more importantly, what are the thresholds that need to be met? You'll notice as I click next, Clarity again tells me that I'm out of range. I'm going to continue and just make another note. I can always access notes from down here on this little icon, where when I click it, it will then be associated and recorded on the patient's test. From the skin prick checklist, I can select whether I'm applying the skin pricks to the arm, the back, or column view, which is a generic view. Arm and back correspond with stamps. Let's select the back, scan my dip well tray, and then confirm that I've completed each of these steps, again, customized for your Clarity environment. You'll notice without confirming that I've applied the multi-prick device or any of the custom steps, I can't proceed forward with the start histamine timer. I must verify that I've done each of the steps requested. Now, my histamine timer will run. Here, I would save and exit, and allow my patient to sit in my testing queue. At the end of the allotted time, the timer will expire and turn red, and I can click Next. Here now, it's asking me to measure control number 11, the histamine. I'll put a passing value in, or a 7mm wheel, and for my glycerin or negative control, I'll enter a 0. Now, as I click Next, you'll notice that the timer has continued to elapse from when I originally started it. That's because we're allowing the rest of the skin pricks to fully develop. At the end of 20 minutes, when my timer elapses, I would select my patient for my testing queue to bring them back in, click Next, and here now you can see again I have that visual representation of the patient that's on the screen that matches the stamps that I've applied. Here, I'll put some random values in. Note that I'm putting a 9mm wheel in on some of these skin pricks. This is indicating to the software that the patient's positive and automatically assigning an endpoint of 6. When I'm done recording my skin prick wheels, I click Next, and now you'll see in the Prepare Intradermal tab, it's guiding me through a representation of my intradermal testing tray and which intradermal dilution will apply. So I take a needle and I put it in the number 2 dilution of Bermuda grass. the number 5 of Johnson. And here you'll notice that it skipped a lane because we indicated that we had a 9mm wheel and no interdermal is necessary. This algorithm is set up as the default MQT algorithm, but it's fully customizable to what you do in your practice as well. Let me click Next and indicate to Clarity that I've applied, or I've put needles into each of my individual dilutions, and I'm ready to apply them to the patient. Here I am now in the interdermal checklist, and it's asking me if we're doing a generic view column, applying interdermals to the back, or in this case, the arm. I use the barcode scanner to scan the individual tray, confirm that I've cleaned the skin with alcohol, applied the skin stamps, and applied the interdermals, and start my interdermal timer. Again, I would save and exit, allow my patient to sit in the testing room until 10 minutes elapses, select the patient, bring them back in, click Next, and then be able to read the individual interdermal wheels. I'll put some values in here. And then click Next. We've identified performing post-vitals as a best practice across our membership. This is where I would put those values in as well. These vitals are again customized to your practice. We can also set up the thresholds so that if the post-vitals fall by a greater percentage than what you deem as acceptable to the pre-vitals, Clarity will give us a warning there. Here we'll keep these current vitals and click Continue. This brings me to the final screen in the testing wizard. On the left side here, I have things that gave you a positive reaction that I can talk to the patient about. Available treatments on the right side that I can select if I know. And I can select this print button, which then downloads a PDF that I can print or scan and attach to the patient's portal for the things that gave them a positive reaction. In order to close this window, simply close the browser tab and then check out the patient. Upon checkout, Clarity will ask if we have consent forms signed at this time or not, and then done.